All right, guys, this is week 24. And so week 24, we're sorting by, does the word have a long E in the first syllable? Does the word have the long E in the second syllable? Or does it have a short E sound, in the first syllable? Okay, most of these you just have to memorize, but I want to kind of give you some hints of how I think about it that might help you remember some of the weird spellings. All right, so let's go through some of the ones that are pretty straightforward. All right, freedom. If you think about the word free, you can get the word freedom. Sorry, this is... All right, same thing with reader. Reader has that suffix er, which means someone who. So a reader is someone who reads, just like a teacher is someone who teaches. So you can remember that that's er as opposed to ir or ur, which also makes the sound, because only er spells the suffix that means someone who does something. And you know how to spell read, okay? Feature. I don't really have anything to say about that one. Feature means like, it could be like a specific characteristic about something. Like if I have a book and it features dragons, that means that the dragons are part of that book. All right, I did want to talk about people. Okay, people is one that really trips even grown-ups up, because P-E-O is not normally how we spell the long E sound, right? And so what I want to show you is that people comes from the Latin root populus. All right, and populus means the body, oops, I spelled that wrong, populus, the body of citizens or crowd, okay? So we keep this O in there to show that people is related to that. So people keeps that O, which helps us to know that it's related to words like population, which means how many people there are. Oops, I'm going off the camera again. It's also related to words like popular, which means that like something is very common, that lots of people like it. Okay, so if you can remember that that O relates back to words like population and popular, most of the time in English, if something is weird, there is a reason. Okay, and lots of times it is to keep the meaning link. And so that O in people helps us remember, oh yeah, it comes from that root word populus, which also relates to population and popular. So think about that when you're trying to remember that O in that word people, okay? All right, let's look at our second syllable long. We've got compete. All right, compete is kind of a neat one. I did want to talk to you about that. I just hope that you are starting to realize, oh man, all of these words have meaning, right? So compete actually has a suffix. Com is a suffix, okay? Com is a suffix that means with or together, right? And so Pete comes from a Latin root, a root word. Remember, that's a word that is usually in another language and it can't stand on its own the way a base word can. This word means to strive or to seek. All right, so can you see how if we've got to strive or to seek together, then we are competing. We are going against each other for a prize. Other places that you might see com would be like combine. Okay, com means put together, by means two. You're combining it, you're putting it together. So this is such a neat thing, and you guys are really going to get into this, I think, next year, but it's just kind of cool to see. All right, here we go. So we've got compete, which is a vowel consonant E pattern. We've got repeat, which has that RE prefix, which means to do something again. We've got succeed, which is related to successful or success. So you can think about that. You have to have two C's in here because if you didn't, it would make that U be long, right? So you can remember you need two C's or else the first syllable is long. And then you need two E's to make it have the long E sound, right? All right, so that's kind of the trick for that one. Increase also has a prefix in. And then we've got this E at the end, and that job of that E is to keep the word from looking plural, right? Because if we ended with EAS, we might think that we had more than one of something called increase. So that E is there to help you remember or to signify to people that it's not a plural word, but that's just how it is. All right. First syllable short. So some of these, all of them are EA, because we know that EA can also say short E sound, right? And lots of times it will relate again by meaning. Now, not all of these do, but like heavy, I think about heave. Remember, like on a boat and they're like, heave ho, heave ho. It means like to, try to lift something and throw it over. All right. So that's how I remember heavy, is that I think about the word heave. And then this one, pleasant, I think about, all right, so pleasant means that something is like really nice, like a pleasant day, has sunny, and it's not too hot, it's not too cold. I think about the word please, because if something is pleasant, it is pleasing. It's something that you like. Okay, so that's how I remember that that's an EA. Now the other ones I don't really have tricks for. Feather and steady also are short E sounds spelled with an EA. Okay, so that is our sort this week. As you're looking at words, just remember, if there is a word that looks weird and you can't figure out why it's spelled like that, almost always there's a reason. And you can look it up on something like Edema Online, or there's whole books about this that go into it. All right, so again, your sort is if the E is in the first syllable, if the long E is in the second syllable, or if you hear the short E in the first syllable. And in these words, all of them are spelled with an EA. And then last thing, if you're reading these and you try it with a long E first and it doesn't make sense, just know you got to be flexible. You try it with a short E and see if that's a word you know.